grew up living in a home with Christian parents and really close Christian grandparents and a really great church support family. And I always was very involved in everything that I did. I was always very sociable and outgoing. But this is where my craving comes into place. When I was in elementary school, I always wanted to be accepted by everyone. I wanted to have the acceptance of friends, so I made as many as I could. But looking back, they weren't real friends. They were just acquaintances that I can say hello to and know their name. When I went to high school, I also wanted to be accepted by everyone. I chose to be on as many teams that I could and be involved in as many groups, and chose to be involved with different groups of people, so maybe that I would actually fit in and be accepted by one of them. Eventually, I realized that I didn't really have that many friends there. I had 5 or 6 close friends, and I knew them all from church, but that was it. When I went to university, I decided that none of these people were actually going to know who I am. I decided that I could make myself new, and they wouldn't know anything that I brought from elementary school or high school with me. I could choose my own friends and choose what I wanted to do with them, so that I could be accepted. I still went to church every week, and I still had Christian friends, but they weren't the ones that I chose to hang out with. The students that I hung out with, I didn't really make bad decisions. I might have drank here and there once or twice, but it wasn't a big deal. No one else would have been, wow, that girl's a party girl. The first time in my life, I was actually starting to fit in and be accepted by the people around me. This is when one of my close friends pointed out to me that, you know, you're not actually listening, or you're not actually being accepted by these people. They're just following along and letting you play the game that they play. My friend also explained to me that my acceptance wasn't from the friends that I was looking for, and that all along God had accepted me already, and that it was my choice to accept His acceptance. I was reminded that even when I started looking elsewhere for the attention from others and that acceptance, that it wasn't needed, and that it was causing me to do things that I would have in the past looked down on completely, and that people were starting to look down on me because of my actions. I realized that God was waiting for me to consciously remember who He was and what He had done for me. Because God saved me from my sins, He sent His Son to die on the cross for me before I was even born, before I was thought of. God had already forgiven me of my sins and my actions that I just now had to forgive myself for doing. I had to choose to remember that God's acceptance was what I actually was longing for, and I was looking for it elsewhere when I didn't need to be. Now, even though I've chosen to accept God's acceptance, that doesn't mean that my craving for acceptance has disappeared. My craving for acceptance of others and people to include me in different things is always going to be there. I just choose to have to remember that it doesn't matter what they think of me or how I think of myself, but that God's always there. God really died on the cross, sent His Son to die on the cross for me, but for everyone else too. It doesn't matter how much you've messed up in the past, or if you mess up in the future and you think you're disappointment and that there's nothing else to live on for, but God's already accepted you, and you just have to choose to accept that acceptance. All you have to do is make that commitment and say, I want God's acceptance. I want Him to love me, and I know He already does. My name's Katie, and this is my story.